First of all, good morning. It's good to be with you and to see you again. I would like to mention that usually on Sunday mornings we do a much shorter version of the opening prayers. But today I requested to do the longer version of the opening prayers. And I wanted to explain to you why I find this a good thing to do whenever possible. Is that the long opening prayers, if you look through them, they are actually they're a prayer to the whole Namchu lineage, but they are also a very strong, song of taking refuge by realizing what is extraordinary. In fact, here are listed all the names of all the lamas of the lineage. And these lamas are accomplished, each in their own way. And generally, in each of the verses, or in some of the verses, it will indicate what the great blessing of this particular lama actually is. And so we're not only taking refuge in the lamas of the lineage and calling them to be seated while we practice our devotion. Not only are we doing that, but we are also celebrating and keeping in mind their accomplishments. Let's see. What is a good example? To Garab Dorje I pray, grant blessings to directly realize the Dharmakaya. And this is an accomplishment of Garab Dorje Rinpoche, one of the lamas of our lineage. And then I pray to the great Vijayadhara, grant blessings to empty this mind that grasps to appearances. Well, that doesn't really indicate an exact lama. There's two Kunzan Cherub, I pray, grant blessings to realize self-awareness as the Dharmakaya. To Raga Asya, I pray, grant blessings to be separate from the faults of delusion. So this implies that each of these lamas must have been so tremendously accomplished in that particular aspect that we can take refuge in them as our lineage lamas, even though they may not be present with us physically here, in the form of our own root guru. For myself, since I'm in the hot seat and you guys are here listening to my teachings, then I must be the Vajra master for this, or mistress, for this occasion. And that being the case, I can remind you that when I was formally enthroned and crowned, I received all the blessings of all the lamas of the lineage. That is to say, all of their accomplishments were given in symbolic form to me. And that happens when any tulku is recognized and is brought into the lineage as a throne holder. Then the accomplishments of the lamas who were in the past, whose lives and whose movement through time has made this lineage what it is, through their excellent practice and their excellent accomplishment. And so all of that was given to me, and that is my great good fortune and the great gift that I can offer back to you. And that's how it goes. One never has the idea to think of a person as their guru. Again, as I mentioned last week, we start there often. We think, oh, this person is pretty smart. He or she looks like they have some understanding, they have some wisdom, they have some compassion, and so I'll follow that person as my guru. And as I have suggested, this is a first step. It's an okay first step. It's like sticking your toe in the water to test the temperature. But then beyond that, we realize that it is a much deeper thing that we are doing than to take refuge in a persona. We realize that what we are doing is practicing Guru Yoga in such a way that we can awaken to the qualities, the realization, and the teachings that the root and the empowerment that the root guru gives us. And that is meant to cause us to awaken to the nature that is the same as the root guru's nature. And so we use the guru as a prop, in a sense. And that doesn't sound very kindly, but in one's practice, that's where you really get down to the nuts and bolts of it. In one's practice, one doesn't use the Lama in a way that when people think of using each other, they think of somebody loses. But in this way, it's absolutely a perfected, time-established, win-win situation. In that when the student has tremendous respect for the teacher and holds the teacher on the lotus throne in their heart chakra, when that happens, the teacher becomes more empowered to give to the student more than they had before. That is the invitation, that's the connection, by holding the Lama either above the crown of one's head during the daytime or while we are sleeping, seated on the lotus throne within our hearts. This constantly creates that connection, the connection that is never forgotten, that we remain constantly mindful of. And so through that connection, blessings come. It is literally, borrowing the name of a practice that we love to do here, a shower of blessings. Indeed, every time that we repeat the lineage prayers to all the lamas of the lineage, we are once again building that stairway or making that connection so strong that it cannot be broken. In other words, we are creating that connection also with our own enlightenment, as our own enlightenment absolutely depends on what we just recited in these lineage prayers. No Joe Schmo spiritual teacher can come from no lineage, connected with no accomplishment other than what they claim for themselves, and teach you proper Dharma and teach you how to awaken. Because we all have to know that what is being taught, that the method, which is so profound and so important on the Tantric Vajrayana path, that the method actually arises from the practice, the result, and the natural primordial state of these lamas, and of one's own root guru as the condensed essence. And you should think of that phrase a lot, condensed essence of all these blessings. And so, as we create that connection ever stronger, in fact, it is even taught that when we repeat the 7-line prayer, that every time we repeat the 7-line prayer, even if we say it as we're driving in the car, which means that you can only offer a partial concentration. I wouldn't recommend total concentration while you're driving the car, but still, even that is worth something. Even that creates a connection between oneself as persona, as ego, as clinging to self-nature, that self that seems to be arisen in phenomena as a separate being, creates the auspicious connection between that illusion of self-nature and one's true primordial wisdom nature, which is the essence that is the same as the Lama's mind. So whenever we repeat this, we make that connection stronger and stronger. And so that's why it's important to repeat the 7-line prayer so many times, or to recite the prayers to the lineage, or at least, at the very least, to hold the picture of Guru Rinpoche in the sky in front of oneself, realize that the nature is completely inseparable from that of one's own root guru, and receive the threefold empowerment, which is the white light to one's head to purify body, the red light to one's throat to purify speech, and the blue light to one's heart to purify mind. We can do that any day, any time, under any conditions. Nowhere is it written that Guru Rinpoche never appears in one's bathroom. In fact, I've had some wonderful prayers in my shower. That's the great thing about Vajrayana. You can visualize the throne, and there you are. But it's so important to keep that mindfulness throughout the day, to settle our minds, to keep us in a state of joyfulness, preparedness, in a way kind of hopefulness, but it's a Vajra hope, which is more like a confidence. In other words, you hope when you leave here and you go to a restaurant or when you have your lunch or wherever you go, you hope that things will be tasty and you'll have a good time. It's not the same kind of hope. To hope in the practice of these tremendous lamas, to hope in the accomplishment of one's root guru, to hope that that blessing will be passed on to oneself through guru yoga, through one's practice, isn't like a vain hope. It isn't like the hope and fear conundrum that we get into, but it's more like a confidence. Like we're placing all of our hopeful nature. We're laying our bet that if we do our practice and accomplish the way we are taught, that the blessing will come accordingly. And now for most of us, when we walk around day to day, whether we are in our practice or whether we are simply engaging in our ordinary lives, our minds are very active. This is one of the unfortunate conditions of samsara, is that since we consider self-nature to be inherently real and are constantly involved in something like a drug-induced, if you will, or dream-like state, where this fundamental delusion of self-nature, the nature of phenomena, being inherently real, like a drug keeps whirling around in our consciousness, in our brain. Or in fact, the more correct way to say it is that we exist in something like a bubble of reflection, in that each one of us lives totally, though it seems we live in our chairs and our houses and our cars and in the phenomenal world, we live in our own mind stream. That is the totality of the experience that we have, is the experience of our mind stream. Literally, if you want to know what you've accomplished so far, all you have to do is study what you see of yourself now. If you can honestly say that you have certain habitual tendencies, then you don't need a psychic to tell you what you've been doing in the past. And on the other hand, if you have some excellent qualities, like maybe some extraordinary generosity, and you've been a person who has given a great deal to others during the course of your life, then you can see where you have been in the past. Because one would have to have practiced that level of generosity or bodhicitta in order to be so habituated. So we can look at ourselves in a loving way and in an honest way, without the hurtfulness and icky guiltiness that comes with that we feel emotionally when we are not satisfied with our own habitual tendencies and ways of being, and we want to improve ourselves. We can actually look and see what our traits are now, and we can begin to apply the antidote. And rather than getting stuck in the idea that, oh, I'm not satisfied with the way I am now, I'm unhappy with the way I am now, I'm getting older and it looks like I'm not making much progress, and I just wonder whether I'm going anywhere, rather than hanging out in that kind of idea. When we have that kind of idea, we should immediately go to the guru. Immediately go to the guru and receive that threefold blessing and try to merge our intention with the loving, compassionate attention of the guru. try to merge our body, our speech, our mind in the prayer, of course, receiving the threefold empowerment, and try to merge our nature with that of the Guru. And we find that in that we are comforted. Does that mean that the Guru came to you personally and said, there, little boy or girl, you're going to be okay. It's going to work out in the end. Don't be afraid. Maybe you've had some fantasy like that your teacher has come to you in that way. Well, if you feel that that's what happened and that's what brought your comfort, that's all right. That's the way your mind works. In essence, that is your phenomena. Remember that we are in this bubble that constantly reflects our own karmic traits, our own habitual tendencies that we have since time out of mind. And we react automatically to every one without the spaciousness to note that this indeed is our own karma and manifests from within us. And that this is the nature of our mind stream. But what actually happens, and this is the best part of it, is that as we practice shower of blessings and as we practice Guru Yoga, the path or the road or the distance, if you'll allow me some diluted words, but words that unfortunately are the ones that work in our conversation. The path or the distance between one's own perception, one's own mind, and the mind of the Guru becomes shorter and shorter. As one prays to the Guru and requests the blessing of the mind empowerment or the speech empowerment or the body empowerment that the Guru has to offer, even as we're praying like that, our own inner psychic winds, channels, and fluids, particularly our winds, because they are the most easy to control, our winds become calmer. Even the heart chakra, which has 8 channels on it that are wind channels, the heart chakra becomes calmer. And the winds are moving through the heart chakra, ba-doop, 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 just nicely, like a little pot on simmer. The cap of the heart chakra entrance moves, just taps slightly. You've ever seen a slightly boiling pot on the stove where the top just dances a little bit? And one's mind becomes calmer like that. And as one's mind becomes calmer, we think, oh, surely this is the blessing of the Guru. The Guru has given me this blessing. Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true. What has also happened is that you have taken refuge. And in taking refuge, you have, in a way, like imitated or how should I say it? Well, literally, you have accepted the blessing that is given by the lineage lamas, and you have fulfilled the promise that you make in the 7-line prayer, which says, following you, I will practice. And every time we make that effort, we become stronger. To the degree that life, the very fabric of life itself, begins to alter. For instance, the things that we have very fragile minds. Our winds are moving so fast here in samsara with our delusion and our unfortunate habitual tendencies. Our mind is just so speedy and always self-occupying, and always throwing up movies for us to look at and voices to hear. Hopefully we're not hearing too many voices. At least if we do hear them, don't listen to them. But we have that kind of mind. The mind is always trouble, and if we let the mind continue on its own path, what generally happens is that we start getting in a whirlwind, some sort of cycle of inflammation. The mind becomes inflamed with hope and fear, with the old habitual tendencies of, I am myself, therefore I must be made happy, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing it. You know, that kind of grasping, inappropriate, clinging to egocentricity and to self-nature as being inherently real. The more we do that, or the more we try to control our mind without appealing to the qualities and conditions and accomplishments of the lamas of the lineage, it's like screaming at a monkey to be quiet. The monkey will only scream back at you. And then it'll start throwing things. And that's really what happens when we try to control our minds, or when we, in our either not knowingness or our pridefulness, we think, I can handle this. And we try to suppress our thinking or change our thinking. And what we end up doing is make all kinds of judgments about our thinking. And we end up just, again, yelling at the monkey. If you start yelling at the monkey and telling him he's dumb and he doesn't know what he's doing, well, he'll show you that that's true. Even though I personally love monkeys. What we come to depend on then, and this is the big secret of Vajrayana, this is the rocket ship that I spoke of last week that takes us so quickly to the goal. And that is, again, we are depending and trusting on the empowerment of the lamas of the lineage and the condensed essence of all that, which is your root guru. And by the way, depending utterly on one's root guru is also a great antidote to pride. Sneaky little pride which comes in and inserts its sneaky little self into our little minds and leads us down the wrong path. Now, what's interesting is this, and I would like to explain to you something that may be a little difficult to understand. So I'll try to draw a picture in sort of a picture in space, and maybe you'll be able to see it a little bit. What I would like to tell you about is this. Each and every one of us, every single person in this room or in any room, has amazing amounts of karma. The reason why is that, differently than what your corner psychic has told you, you didn't live 10 lives or 100 lives or even 1,000 lives. You have lived uncountable lives. This is what Lord Buddha himself has taught, that we lived uncountable lives, making so many karmic connections, that literally anyone that you can be in a room with at some point has been your own parent or child. And so we have extraordinary amount of time that we have spent in samsara, time in which we have developed very strong and really unfathomable habitual tendencies that there's just plenty of that to spread around. And in one's life, not 1 minute does one experience that is not the result of past karma and the cause for new karma. On the path of Buddhism, the one thing we come to understand that many religions seem to reject is the logical relation between cause and effect. This is one thing that we find in Buddhism. Lord Buddha taught us that cause and effect is exacting, that it occurs in the way that is common in this particular samsaric dimension that we are in right now, in that if I drop this, it's going to fall, cause and effect. We have those kinds of rules. But in a much grander cosmic sense, every single engagement in samsara becomes then a cause for more engagement. Every moment that we think of ourselves as separate and think of other as out there is the cause for more future developments. And it is also the result of karma that we have engaged in since time out of mind. What we are experiencing right at this moment is due to a bunch of different things. Right at this moment, we are sitting here in a Buddhist temple. We are listening to, hopefully, our root teacher. That is an amazing thing. In order for that to have happened, there have to have been uncountable efforts and many prayers and many practices, many prayers, many efforts, many engagements that bring about this result. In other words, you must have tried very hard. You couldn't have been all bad if you're here. But still, being in samsara, we always react. And we react in such a way, the way Lord Buddha taught us, with hope and fear, or the middle of that coin, which is kind of indifference. But we always react. And that reaction, once again, is due to past causes and will result in future causes. When we engage on the path, well, let me get back to what we're talking about, being in the same room together. In order for this to have happened, several things have come together. Your individual karma, the blessings of the past that have brought you to this moment. But then there is a group karma. Somehow in the past, we have been together as a group before, under some condition, we don't know. But under those conditions, we created some causes. And we are creating more causes even now. And so that's what brings us to this place. The other causes that bring us to this place are, again, the lamas of the lineage and their accomplishment. Yet this is not a cause and effect relationship that arises from samsara. This is the result of the efforts that we have already engaged in, that we are to the point where we are reaching for this blessing. And so that, coupled with the enlightened intention of our gurus to return to the world again and again and again until each one with whom we have a connection is liberated. That's how we're here. We see our ordinary causes and results ripening, and we see the extraordinary incident of these pure lamas and their glorious intention ripening or projecting itself somehow here into samsara. Look in that mirror. That mirror tells you that you are making progress, that you have made a great deal of progress, and that this is a treasure that you should never let go of. Because it takes a great lot of effort to get to that point. So again, we have all kinds of karma. We have the karma of killing, because we've killed, maybe even in this lifetime. Squishing a mosquito or something like that. And if we haven't done it, we've done it in the past lifetime. And of course, there is the condition of samsara in which we kill beings all the time and don't know it. Every time we brush our teeth or, do something like that, there are these little conscious, little primitive forms of consciousness that are killed by that. It's the condition of samsara. One can hardly walk through samsara without causing some harm, and that's why samsara seems to be endless. But we have this shortcut, and this shortcut is just, there are no conditions in samsara that one can grab onto or hold onto or connect oneself with that will ever bring the same kind of result. Even if we were to want to, say, get our minds under control, and we were to go to a psychiatrist, well, maybe that's necessary as part of what you have to do in order to in order to ripen one's mind. Maybe that's part of what has to happen. Maybe you won't be all right until you take your medicine. But that psychiatrist or that medicine or that incident that comes from the world and can be somewhat beneficial can never bring you the ultimate result of liberation from suffering. You can never be liberated from your own mind. But you can be liberated from ordinary perception. And that can only come through extraordinary means. Otherwise, we are doomed only to perceive ordinary phenomena. Without the teachings and benefits of these great lamas of the lineage and their accomplishment that give us this door to walk through, we'll simply engage in more and more phenomena. How does it actually work? Okay, let me draw you a little picture in space. Let's say you are here, right there, okay? And let's say I draw a straight line right through you. Back there is your past. Back there is your, up ahead is your future. And there's you on a kind of time and space grid. That grid appears to be a linkage between time and space. It appears to be in a place. It appears to be at a certain time. But in fact, it is the condition of one's own mind stream. The thoughts that you have right now, the thoughts that you have in your mind, the ones that nobody sees or hears, are very important. And why is that? Because, remember, you're standing here with all your karma, past causes, future results, and you're in the middle of that. It's like a sea of cause and result that is both virtuous and non-virtuous, both meritorious and lacking in merit. All these kinds of karmas we have created. Now, when you think about Dharma, and you think about the three precious jewels, and you think about the great bodhicitta, and you think about one's Lama with great devotion, what happens is you are calming the field right around you in your little time and space grid. And there is a certain calm vibration, scent, whatever you want to call it. There is a certain vibration or scent or taste of that calmness, that faith, where we take refuge in the three precious jewels, that draws karma forward, and karma from the past, causes from the past, are constantly ripening. They're constantly being drawn forward, smacking you in the head, right there, your little circle self. But you have this buffer around you because you're constantly praying mindfully to the gurus, grant me your blessing. Following you, I will practice. Please purify my body, speech, and mind. I offer my body, speech, and mind to you. These kinds of mindful thoughts that one practices in Guru Yoga and constantly connect oneself to the Guru act like a magnet and like draws like. So around you is that fragrance of devotion. Around you is that calm confidence of prayer, of practice. And so what happens is that the karma that is drawn forward is vibrationally attuned to the wholesome and good thoughts that you are having. And so you act, that's how it comes to pass, that when you practice virtuous nature, right thinking, right meditation, right activity, and of course right generosity towards all beings, it makes you happier. It is the very medicine, tonic, that brings happiness. When we surround ourselves and connect ourselves with those kinds of wholesome, virtuous thoughts, gradually the non-virtuous causes that we have created tend to hang back. They're denser, and they don't move forward because there's nothing for them to cling to. See what I'm saying? On the other hand, if we continue with ordinary behavior and our usual mantra, which is gimme, 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 gimme. I wanna. If we continue with that kind of mantra, we're always thinking about what we don't have and what we'd like to have and who has better and how we'd like some of theirs too. And there's this constant inflammation. It's like a constant inflammation. You could do this with your own skin if you like. Just keep rubbing it. It will become hot and inflamed, and it won't even feel like your own skin. It'll become raw, it'll feel different. And then your attention is drawn on it. Then you're really up the creek without a paddle. If we constantly let our mind run rampant, it's like Russian roulette. Not only are we probably not creating any causes for future happiness, but instead we are calling forth these cause and effect relationships, these causes that we have created in the deep past to ripen. Remember, like brings like. When we rest our mind in the comfort of our lineage, and it doesn't mean like screeching and calling out, you gotta help me now, but instead resting one's mind in the Vajra confidence, knowing that these lamas have accomplished the end of suffering. My teacher brings this blessing to me. Therefore, I will practice. I will receive this empowerment. I will let the negative thoughts go. I'm not going to scream at the monkey. I'm just going to take refuge. And there's the difference. Confidence and faith begins to change our life experience. Our life experience, so we've been taught, changes when we change it. We can move things around like a checkerboard outside, here in the world. We can change our residence. We can keep on moving. We can do anything that we do that we think will bring us happiness. And maybe it works for a little while, but do you know why it works? It works because you have some silly confidence in ordinary samsaric things, and for a while you were expecting that new car to make you happy, and for a little while it does. But then, you know what happened. The other shoe drops, and the new car smell is gone, and the rust sets in, and it doesn't feel as smooth as it used to. And suddenly it's old. 3 years, it's old. If that's not impermanent. I don't know what is. So we have comforted ourselves for little bits of time with some thing that we thought was going to comfort us. By the same token, we have continued grasping. So even while we got comforted for a little while with that new car, it was the grasping that got us the new car. And the grasping, when are we going to hear from that? In the future. The more grasping, the less happiness. On the other hand, if here we are again, your little circle, that's you. You are here. Here's your past, and here's your causes, here's your results, future results. And instead, even when things come to you that seem like sufferings, instead of allowing yourself to go on the seesaw of reaction, sure, we have to allow ourselves some reaction time because we're not zombies. But rather than remaining in that seesaw reality of reaction, we can begin to take refuge. We can call out to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. We can call out to our root gurus. We can depend on those who have sailed the ship of liberation all the way to the other side. And we can rest our mind on that which is wholesome. And in fact, the events that come to you, the karma that seems to ripen right before your very eyes, will begin to change. The more confidence we have, the more we begin to open our inner eyes to this beauty, and to begin to awaken to what is sacred, what is wholesome, what should be gathered as opposed to what should be rejected. As we walk this path, not just on Sundays, but every day of the week, and begin to attune ourselves to the blessing that has been offered in this banquet, slowly, slowly, our minds begin to change. And therefore, what ripens in our own mind stream begins to change. We have also created many fortunate causes in the past. Sure, we have created some darker causes, and they will come forward if they are invited to do so. But we have also created the causes for many blessings. And so the more we keep our mind and practice receiving those blessings, the stronger the connection that we make with the three precious jewels, the more those blessings will begin to ripen. I know for myself that there are many people, for instance, who have everything they need in this lifetime. There's enough money, there's enough stuff, enough food, enough everything. And yet they feel poor, like there's never enough. They feel afraid. Rather than being gifted by having lots of money and lots of stuff, in fact, they are owned by that money and stuff. They never stop worrying over it. They never stop thinking about it. And Lord knows you can't give any of it away because then you won't have it anymore. And so there is a kind of impoverishment that happens, where even though they have created the causes in the past to have, say, lots of money and stuff, in this lifetime, they are not creating those causes for the future. And in fact, even though they have all that money and stuff, it does them no good. They're not happy. And the clinging the worrying about it is often increased, and so the mind remains inflamed. But then I know other people who have maybe some money, but not lots and lots, but whenever some is needed, they give it away. Now those people have an entirely different relationship with money and with phenomena in general. There's a lot more spaciousness in that kind of mind. That kind of mind is not ruled by fear. And where does that spaciousness or that confidence come from? Well, from these teachings and from these lamas who have accomplished enlightenment and who have said that the great bodhicitta is the way, that generosity is the way, and clinging to self-nature as inherently real is absolutely the opposite of happiness and brings an unfortunate result. So I've seen both things. I've seen perfectly healthy people who constantly are in fear of their own health. They're afraid they're not going to be healthy. And they're perfectly healthy. Of course, when you act like you're always unhealthy and you're afraid of being unhealthy, eventually you will be unhealthy. Because we all have the karma of sickness. It depends on what we draw forward. Now, New Age people and New Age doctrine, if you can call it doctrine, will say, think positive thoughts and everything will be cool. It's a lot deeper than that. I mean, a lot deeper than that. You can think all the positive thoughts you want, and yet, if you are not opening up in wisdom like a flower and taking refuge in that which is truly wholesome, and that which is truly accomplishment, and that which has truly given the antidote to suffering the way Lord Buddha has, that's different. Then there's a different posture that one takes. How can I describe it? I'll use a personal example. A couple of years ago, I had major surgery in which I had exploratory surgery. That's a big surgery. That's when you get opened up like a pocketbook and they get to see what's inside. And after that, when I was healing, there was no practice. There was no ability to practice. I couldn't sit up. The pain was tremendous. I had to take really horrible drugs in order to, pacify the pain, and yet at the same time, it also pacified my mind, too. But I remembered one thing. There was one thing I remember. It hurt so much to breathe. It even hurt to breathe. And I could only take in so much breath, and all I could think about was tongling, sending and receiving. And I thought, Guru Rinpoche is my breath. Guru Rinpoche is my life. Guru Rinpoche is the blood in me. Guru Rinpoche is the flesh in me. And I just kept my mind. I only had this much mind going on between the pain and the drugs. There wasn't much space. But whatever I had, I kept my whole heart, my whole concentration on Guru Rinpoche, in whom I have unquestioning confidence, and who I know is incapable of abandoning me. And so every breath was Guru Rinpoche. And as the pain subsided a little bit and the medicine subsided, I just continue with that, and I continue with that. And it was some of the most amazing meditation I've ever had in my life. You know, in Ngundro, where they say you should visualize yourself hanging above the abyss of samsara by one string, and holding that string is Guru Rinpoche. Man, oh man, did I ever get that one. That's exactly how I felt. And my own experience was that that became a prayer. That getting better was a prayer. It was a confidence. It was a prayer. I knew it would work. And what I discovered was that ultimately the whole event became Guru Rinpoche's blessing. There is no doubt. There is no doubt that it is Guru Rinpoche's blessing that caused my survival and that made it that they didn't find a cancer in me. There was no doubt. And there was no doubt in my mind that in that pain, how Guru Rinpoche's blessing was so there for me, like nectar I could drink in the midst of horror. Because it was horrible. But I could drink that nectar. Guru Rinpoche was holding me. I could feel it. I was buoyant. Whatever the sea of pain was, or sea of drugs, or sea of hospital, or whatever it was, I was buoyant, and it was Guru Rinpoche that held me up. His practice, our practice, that nature, surpasses anything in samsara. Eventually, it did turn out to be Guru Rinpoche's blessing in every conceivable way. And my attendants, ordinary women with the good karma to be with their teacher, became like saints. They mothered me. They took care of me like my own mother never took care of me. I was so sick, I would have these fevers and weird sweatings and stuff from the inflammation in my stomach, where I'd have to change the sheets 3-4 times a night. Terrible times of just terrible times. And they would pick me up, they would undress me, they would help me they would help me like I was a little baby. They would dress me, they would put me back to bed, they would not sleep on their own so they could watch me sleep. And I thought to myself, this is the very heart of Tara. These attendants, I am humbled that through them Tara has come to bless me. And in my mind, my attendants became Tara. The holiest of women. And to see them become Tara and to think, gosh, I should be sitting on the ground and they should be up on a throne. I mean, that's how I felt. I felt so humble from being treated so kindly like that it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. I didn't know that ordinary sentient beings could be filled with such caring and kindness. I never saw it before, not in my growing up. And it took my being this sick to see it. And then it turned out to be a blessing in the most marvelous way, because when I was recovering, I kept trying to go back to work and start teaching, and I just couldn't. I was just not ready. The time was not right. The karma was not there, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't get strong enough to do that. And then amazing things happened. Through connection with my own root guru, and through a connection with a marvelous Lama that I must have some amazing connection in the past. Blessings and empowerments came, and suddenly it became to me so urgent to get back to my students, thinking this is all that's important to me. Longing in the way that one longs for one's teacher. Longing to give this blessing to my students. Thinking to myself, if ever any one of my students were to ever endure what I have just endured and not have that blessing, I don't know what I'd do. It would be unbearable. And so I've got to get back to work. I've got to get back to those who have the karma to sit with me and sit with them and tell them the truth. That everything you see is the Guru's blessing. Sure, we do have to endure the results of karma that we have created ourselves in the past. But so long as you have the three precious jewels in your life, and you have created that connection, and you can turn with a full heart of love to the root Guru and say, help me. Without you, I can't make this. And if you can, without pride and with love, create that connection, you will have the strength to endure anything. And for myself, it gave me the strength to come back and get back to work. And I am so eager to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And I'm really working at it through practice and through holding the mindful intention that my teachers have. I, like you, like many of you, am a Westerner. And we don't know the lesson that we can depend on the three precious jewels. Or we're told there's stuff that we can depend on. But there's no idea of taking refuge in anything here in samsara. We're told that if we get a marriage or get a car, get a house, or get things, that we'll be happy. And we try to take refuge in that because we know that there must be some way to be happy. And we want to be happy, just like all sentient beings. We really want to be happy. And so we try to get to deal with what we've been taught so far. But when we connect with the three precious jewels and we realize that this is a dream of our making, and there is an awakening, and that awakening is our nature. And when we begin to find that out, and we sincerely take refuge, and we sincerely try to develop the qualities of our teacher, to merge our mind with our teacher, to without pride humbly accept the blessings of our teacher, when we can learn to do that, even the sufferings in our lives, they are such that, like a leaf that floats on the surface of the water, because of that treasure of the three precious jewels, it's like we have no weight. We are buoyant. It is the Guru himself that holds us up. And in that way, the mind changes, life becomes precious. We are able to live in the now more than we ever could. The mind has more space, more than it ever had. And we develop that finally, that sense of trust, that sense of confidence that we can't find any other place in samsara. I depend utterly on the accomplishment of my predecessors. Without their accomplishment, without this lineage untouched and perfectly complete remaining in the world, without fault and without flaw, I cannot hope to be confident. And we should all think like that. This noble family is part of our mind. And we should trust and have confidence in their capabilities. Each one of these lamas were on the very precipice of enlightenment in any of the lives in which they were born because of previous accomplishments. And they returned to the world and they accomplished Dharma again for the sake of sentient beings. That's what they do. They don't come because they have to learn or because they themselves are twisting on a string in samsara. They don't come because there are karmic relationships that must be satisfied or that must be brought to fruition like that. They come with one intention, and that is to be the very display of the great bodhicitta in samsara. And on that you can rely. Getting back to our little picture of the here you are, what usually happens to people who have not learned of taking refuge, who only know samsara and are simply wandering in samsara, kind of the way a bee in a jar kind of bumps against everything. Those people, those unfortunate ones who don't have the auspicious connection, sure, they are ripening karma and creating new causes, but they don't know it. They're blind. They think today exists in a vacuum. They don't know that there are results we're experiencing today that are from causes in the past and are going to result in future causes. There is no understanding, kind of like nihilism, no understanding of cause and effect. There's no recognition of that at all. And so, of course, they try to be happy. Even serial killers are trying to be happy. They feel some sick but elated feeling or powerful feeling when they victimize people. And in some twisted and sick way, that's the best they can do to try to be happy. So they're not so different from us, except that they are completely closed and ignorant. No awareness of their own nature and no aware of any other nature. Only some crazy, sick, perverted way of trying to gain power or happiness or something. And each of us tries to be happy when we get married. We try to be happy when we go out for recreation. We try to be happy when we go to a movie. We try to be happy when we exercise. We try to be happy when we do everything. We're always trying to create the causes of happiness. And so for ordinary people that have no connection with the path, the things that they do to create happiness are pretty mixed. You might grasp onto a bunch of things like some relationship. And of course, all you're doing is creating more grasping, which in the future brings an unfortunate result. But you might be running after that elusive dream thinking, I've got to have it, I've got to have that relationship, or I've got to have that money, or I've got to have that whatever that is out there. And of course, there's only creating more suffering. And with that aura of grasping and lack of control all around oneself is that inflammation, the inflamed mind. I've got to make things the way they have to be. I've got to arrange things so that I'm happy. I've just got to, we become like little control freaks, trying to control the incidents in our lives to make some kind of happiness. And what we do is when we have that happiness, the vibration of that is so mixed that it pulls forth all kinds of unhappiness, all kinds of negative karma. The vibration that we surround ourselves with ripens whatever we have from the past, and we have everything. So by being ignorant of the causes of happiness and being unaware of that which is our true primordial nature, that which we consider the Lama to be the condensed essence of, without that effort to merge, to know, to awaken to that, we're constantly creating an ordinary, graspy, needy, inflamed mind stream around us, in a sense, that is drawing forth suffering. And by having these ordinary thoughts and thinking only of what makes me happy can actually shorten one's life. Because, again, you're bringing forth that unfortunate karma, and it can come right out of the blue, just out of nowhere. One's life can end like that. And I know that there are so many cases where a person just drops dead, and many times they don't even know why. So that's why we take refuge, and we put so much emphasis on Guru Yoga. Taking refuge so sincerely until we ourselves are awakened to that wisdom nature. And through the practice of Guru Yoga, through many repetitions of the 7-line prayer, and through many repetitions of the Vajraguru mantra, and the visualization, the constant receiving of empowerment, and the depth of devotion, pure devotion that we cultivate. We don't have the habit of it. Don't wait for devotion to arise. You cultivate it, like you cultivate a garden. And as that devotion begins to rise, one's mind stream and the mind stream of the Guru become inseparable. Like milk with water, they mix. And then one's habitual tendencies begin to become pacified, and one begins to awaken to that primordial wisdom nature. So when we do our practice, whether it is the shower of blessings, whether it is the Guru Yoga from Lundro, or whatever practice we do concerning even any deity, like say if we're practicing Vajrasattva, while the visualization indicates that we should see Guru Rinpoche or Guru Rinpoche Yab-Yum with consort, or we should see Vajrasattva, whatever visualization we see, that is the nature of our root guru. It's not a cartoon. You don't visualize a cartoon of Vajrasattva in the sky in front of oneself. You awaken to the nature of your root guru appearing as Vajrasattva. Always you use your root guru in that way. And when you visualize Guru Rinpoche, seen as Guru Rinpoche, but it is none other than the condensed essence of all the refuges, the root guru. And so you constantly, mindfully, and lovingly, and with pure intention and devotion, following you, I will practice. Become one with the nature of your guru in whatever form. And that is literally the great ship of liberation that crosses the ocean of suffering in order to reach the precious awakened state. This entire cycle of teaching that was given to us by Terten Migyur Dorje is called Buddha in the Palm of the Hand. And it's so perfect because that's exactly what we have. We're so fortunate that we have met with the path, we have met with the teachings, and we are now beginning to accomplish method. How fortunate and how miraculous. And we do this always mindful of the condition of those who have no connection to Dharma. Yes, they have the Buddha seed, as does every cockroach and worm and rat or whatever, animal that you can think of that's like even a small pest or vermin or whatever. Each of us has the precious seed of enlightenment We are all that nature. But not every one of us has the auspicious connection. And so as we have this auspicious connection, it is our duty to take hold of this precious path, to accomplish the method, to become one in body, speech, and mind with the nature of the Guru, to be one with the three precious jewels for the sake of those sentient beings with whom we have connection, so that in the future we may benefit them. And this is the great tradition that I pass down to you, and that has been passed down to me. The great tradition of the Vajra masters who appear in the world for one reason and one reason only: to liberate and benefit those sentient beings that they have the auspicious connection with. And then also to liberate those who have connections with others, so that in turn they will keep that precious unbroken chain like a garland of jewels, appearing in samsara miraculously. And so please take these teachings to heart. When you walk throughout the day, please never be separate from the gurus. Never lose mindfulness of their accomplishment and what hope that brings you. Never lose mindfulness that the method has appeared in the world. Ema ho, how precious is that? That even when Tibet fell, when there was so much death and so much bloodiness and so much killing of lamas and practitioners, that the lamas that could took their books, their pechas, and ran for the hills. Like my teacher did. And if he hadn't done that, it would have been lost. So never lose mindfulness of this tremendous effort by the teachers who appear for one reason and one reason only, and that's you. Remain within the circle of their blessing and watch your life change. And so that's our teaching for today. And yeah, that's it.
Julie.